Don't forget our gift cards available at RitaYanez.com, and so am I. Under your bed.
Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Turn on the light!
Hi there, Aquarius. This is your weekly reading for the week of December 14th through 20th. I hope you're feeling well. I hope that your holiday plans, your work schedule, and everything is flowing together very nicely. It's going to be an interesting week, and we're going to talk about it. Monday, the card that you've drawn is the Two of Cups, and this is really great because it shows that there's an energy of compatibility, and it doesn't have to necessarily be romantic, but this is a very good sign for people that are dating, especially in the beginning of a romance. It shows that there is a very high likelihood of compatibility. Now, in an already established relationship, this is also a very good sign because this indicates two people working together, very equally yoked, really trying to do the best thing, putting together all of their efforts and energy and resources into a common goal. So on this day, we have a Sun in Sagittarius square to Jupiter in Virgo. So Sagittarius being your solar 11th house. For the purpose of this reading, we're using Aquarius on the ascendant, which of course, if you know what your rising sign is, then it would be more appropriate for you. It will actually make more sense if you are an Aquarius ascendant. And if you do know your ascendant, your rising sign that you have determined because you know your birth date, location, the exact time, and you've entered it into some kind of natal chart creating tool, you can even go to my website, RitaYanez.com, and if you have that information, you can go ahead and look it up there. It's not my favorite tool, but it is a code that I got so that you can use it, but you can Google that anywhere on the internet and get that information. If you don't know your exact birth time in some way that can be verified with a document, or somebody is damn sure, then you might not know, because the rising sign is actually the constellation rising over the eastern horizon at the moment of your birth. And so we need to know because those can change very quickly. That's why it's used so much in Vedic astrology, for example, and for purposes of what I do, it is the thing that I will advise you to make sure that you're listening to your rising sign first and foremost. Now, with that said, with Sagittarius being in your solar 11th house, which is the house of friendships, group associations, the people that you hang out with, the money that you make from your chosen profession or career, the people that become your tribe or your posse as they relate to your outer world type of adventures. And they don't always have to be the people that you work with, but they could be the associations that might include people that you have worked with before. So having the sun here means that there is almost like a spotlight in this area where there is also, we know, Saturn in the same house. So there could be some changes and some evolution over the years while Saturn is visiting this house, which will be redefining what friends are, what your group associations are, what it is that this means to you in terms of value and or time spent, your investment of time and energy with these people, and really does it bring joy to your life. So when we have Jupiter in Virgo, which is your solar 8th house of joint issues related to the marital partnership, the business partnership, your best friend, the person that you are closest to. This could be a sibling, this could be a business partner, this could be a joint venture, and of course it could be the person that you're not married to, but you live with them, and for all intents and purposes it functions like a very committed relationship. The 8th house is the result of this, and the 8th house includes issues such as death, transformation, taxes, anything that has to do with the joint assets, the fruit or the products of this relationship or effort, including children and the intimate act. Obviously, what kind of a relationship style you have tends to show us where it's at and what's going on with what happens in the 8th house. So In Virgo, we have Jupiter at this time, and that's a wonderful placement for it to be because it can be expansive. So those of you who are looking to have children may be going through those stages of deciding when, where, how, what are we doing? Are we adopting biological children, foster? What are we doing? And then for others, it could be that you are actually taking in more fur babies, fur children, and they kind of have the same energy as a child, believe it or not. And so this could be kind of the thing you do together. It's also about the hobbies and time you spend together as well. With the North Node in this house as well, we know that there is some kind of a transformation, that emphasis needs to be placed here, that we need to make sure everything here is going well. So some of you might already be dealing with the IRS in terms of taxes. We're coming into tax season again next year. It could be the way that resources are pulled together and or the way that the couple spends money jointly. Sometimes people have to figure out how to rein in that spending to just create more of a savings and get the budget on track. And sometimes we see that people need to invest money in something like counseling to make the relationship better. Not that you guys are going to be experiencing problems. It's not something that I really see here. It looks like there's so much energy in other places that I wonder if you'd even have time to have problems. So when you've got this kind of indication that Jupiter here is in a square, which is a challenging aspect to Sun in Sagittarius, there seems to be a need to define who are the people that you are loyal to and why. Are they really your friends? Or are they really the people that act as your friends or have become the surrogate friends, but really they're your co-workers, and in a way you're sacrificing a lot of your personal time away from your own family to supplement what you feel you need to be doing for these other people. So it can be kind of a confusing situation, and I'll try to break it down into a couple of examples like I try to do. So let's just say it's you and your family, and it's you, the wife, and a baby. And you're busy all the time, and you have to do everything and manage the comings and goings of the people who are going to provide for this and that company party and the end of year this. And then before you know it, you've been overloaded with that. And then, you show up at 8:30 at night and your dinner is now cold on the table. The baby's screaming, the wife is frustrated, and you're saying, but sweetheart, I got to do all this at work. And she crosses her arms and says, and you're on salary, so where do they give you something in return for this if you didn't even get a bonus this year? And, is a turkey at the end of the year really worth it, or a box of C's candy, when I have been waiting here all day just to see your face and you're exhausted? You need to do more work on the computer before you go to bed, and the baby doesn't even get to play with dad. And you're like, oh, crap. Okay, so we've got to focus on creating more of a balance between family and work and group associations. This could also play out that it is your wife, vice versa. It could be any other significant person. And then at the same time, there could be the issue that your wife is gone busy all the time. Maybe she's a stewardess, and yeah, you knew it, but she was supposed to take certain amounts of time off to be with you during the holidays. And there you are with the dog and the bowl and the dinner, and she's going to be 2 days late. And you're like, okay, this is no longer working for me. And it could be that there are too many commitments to the friends, to the posse, the tribe, the people you hang out with, the people you go bowling with, whatever it is there is an imbalance that we need to take note of. And I'm sure with such a great card, the Two of Cups, that you will be able to mitigate any problems and get them under control very quickly. And really what happens sometimes is that we get really busy doing too much for everybody else. And then we forget that we need to pay attention to our family at home. It just happens. I have no time at all these days. And my kids have actually been kind of with fear and trepidation coming up to the door because, I had some issues with some software and some different problems last week. And I thought I was already tired. And look, I slept 2 hours from about 5 to 7 this morning. Then I had to turn around and take my 17-year-old to go do his ACT testing at the college. And I was like, and I'm exhausted. And I'm just exhausted. And when I was going to get him out the door, he said, Mother, may I please have breakfast? And so that meant Rita was scrambling eggs and making food and hash browns. I'm like, geez, I don't know if I'm awake. I didn't even warm up the car, I don't think. So keep that in mind, that there need to be some adjustments there. Mercury and Capricorn in your solar 12th house of the hidden, of the subconscious, of the things that we do that sometimes we become our own saboteurs. This is also the house that is the placement of past life associations, early childhood issues, maybe things that you needed or didn't have, and people that that you wanted in your life and they weren't there for you. That will be sextiling Neptune and Pisces, your solar second house. And that is also where Chiron is. So the second house is the house of your possessions, the things you spend your money on, the items you bring into the house. When you bought a new Hoover to go hoovering in the house, then that's what you spent your money on. And that's part of what comprises these things that are physical objects, things that we place value on. And at times this is a house that causes us to question, am I really only as interesting or as amazing as my possessions? Does driving a Mercedes-Benz make me feel better, or do I think it makes people think better of me? This is where sometimes we could get too materialistic, and I think it has to do with some kind of lack or need, some needs that weren't met, something that you thought you needed when you were a child. And look, let's face it, not all of us, were handed anything on a silver platter. I think I was handed everything in a gourd, and that would have just been kind of, if you're Cuban, you know why that's funny. So this is just something that you need to keep in mind, that you could be able to bring healing, if not understanding, to the way you spend your money and why you buy the things you do. If you go out and buy a brand new Range Rover, did you really need that? Or, would a Jeep have done the same? Were you buying yourself one of those I call them 15-ton trucks with giant monster wheels? Does that help you feel better about the one vehicle you were missing in your Matchbox collection when you were a kid? Or are you compensating for something? Or does this just make you feel good because this is the thing you want and you're just going to grow up to be a monster truck driving Enigma, one day? So keep that in mind, because there could be an association with needing to heal some of these identity issues. And maybe you've totally moved beyond that, which I wouldn't be surprised if you already have. And the older you are, the more likely this becomes, where you realize, I don't even need food, Rita. I am a breatharian. I don't need anything to sustain me but the breath of life itself. And that's amazing. I could shave a few pounds off my butt if I could think that way. Tuesday, we've got the Strength card in reverse. And this is a card that indicates that you might not be feeling as resolved, as you could, or you feel like, Rita, it's becoming kind of a struggle here. Could you throw me a line? Well, I could say, roses are red. I could give you all kinds of lines, but the truth is, this is something that you just need to work through. The only reason why I think that Tuesday could be weird is that we still have to remain mindful of the energy of Mars in Libra, your solar ninth house of higher education, legal matters, immigration issues, spirituality, higher education, philosophies. Maybe you like to read Plato. And so this might be the house where you've got some built up aggression or frustration, and you just have to make sure that it doesn't manifest into a punch to the face, elbow to the neck, clothesline this attorney here, he dropped the ball. Don't do that. Just don't get violent. I'm Cuban. These things happen. Talk to my relatives. They can help you understand why. We think it's just good, great fun. We really don't want to hurt everybody. But this could also be kind of problematic because Uranus is opposing Mars in Libra in your solar third house of communication, which is Aries. And so with that in mind, bear in mind that somebody could just say something really stupid to you, or they took your stapler for the last damn time and you're going to clock them now with a paper cutter. And you're like, holy shit, I just lost it. I'm so sorry. And you might have some frustrations about some ongoing legal issues. For some of you, it could be that some taxation issues have become the legal issues, and those will be solved. Look, they cannot come and take your soul or your ass. So the way I look at it is, as complex as anything could be, it really isn't worth letting it get to you. Get yourself a Google Voice number. Get yourself a P.O. box. Forward all the mail there, and don't give out your personal phone numbers or any of your personal information anymore ever again. And they can all talk to the box, and they could just, end up in voicemail. Lovely. Transcribed. You can look at these messages and go, oh, you're not talking to me tonight, dude. So this is where you really need to make sure that you do not get yourself too frustrated, because the Strength card in reverse could sometimes act where we're not just feeling weak and powerless. It could be that you get super pissed off and you're about to rip this lion's head off. So don't let it get that far. Mars doesn't really like being in Libra. I think Mars likes the ninth house. If you talk to Mars, Mars would be like, well, I really don't do legalese and I get bored by paperwork. But, okay, so there's no boxing ring here. But, we could square off in a courtroom. Whereas Libra's like, no, can't we all just get along? We're like, yeah, pretty much not on the Jerry Springer show, that Uranus and Aries would like to create there with Mars and Libra. And so it might not be that difficult. It's obviously an influence that I believe we're able to encapsulate and try to keep it contained into Tuesday because, hey, we can make up our own rules as we go along, right? Especially you guys, Aquarius. When are you not making up the rules? You're the one that makes the rules and then tells us what the rules are. And then we play by your rules and then you change them. And we're like, okay, but, Simon is actually Aquarius over here, and Aquarius says we will all do backflips for the next 24 hours. And we're like, yay, it must be so good. And, you're like, and of course, laughing at us. So on Wednesday, we got the Justice card in reverse, and that's not a bad thing. This is a card that just indicates that you might be feeling like things are starting to get sluggish as it relates to issues of fairness, and it doesn't have to be the actual legal system. This could just be a situation where, for example, if you're working at a place where it's getting all helter-skelter and people are cutting out early or the workforce is skinny and production is behind and you're the one who's got to keep this all going and you're like, and I don't get my bonus, and my beautiful wife reminded me that all I really am getting is a turkey. And no, this could be where you realize this is not fair. Well, this is what I want you to do with this energy. Take note of it. Make an entry in your... Does anybody use a day timer anymore? Am I just that old? Make an entry in your electronic device because you guys are the original, oh God, Alex, my brother would know this one, Palm Pilot. Yeah. So he was probably taking those apart and reprogramming them too. But this is the kind of energy where you make note of this and then keep score because this is not the time of year to quit. Look, if they fire you, you'd be like, well, whatever, because you guys have been using me like an old prostitute and I'm not happy and neither are you. So this could be the kind of energy where you just keep score, keep moving along, and you're going to be fine. Take note of it because this is probably something that you've already set in motion from about September of this year. You've been counting down. When Mars re-entered Sagittarius to stay there now for the next few years, that's when we were all able to say, oh, okay, boundaries. And especially because there's been so much emphasis for Aquarius on frustrations, delays, issues related to immigration, foreigners, faraway places, higher education, maybe even having to work at a distance, or the time and space you spend away from your family might as well be in another country. And also where you've taken much more of an interest in the way you feel and getting more in touch with your abilities, your organic abilities, your psychic skills, if you will. I don't like to use that word, but you guys know that. So take note of it. Keep track of this. Just keep score. You don't have to even tell anybody you're doing this. If you're planning on taking over the world or you're building an incredible Death Star in your basement, go to it. Just don't tell anybody you're doing it. Thursday, we've got the Seven of Wands in reverse, which is somewhat of an illusion. And I think for those of you students of the Tarot, you already see that Ace of Wands down there. I just know it. So with the Seven of Wands in reverse, this is the energy of feeling like you just can't keep up with it, that they're just draining you. It could be that you are watching your children for your grandchildren, for your daughter or your son, and you're feeling just taxed to the max and like, okay, I just realized I don't want to raise children full time anymore. I want to help out. Maybe I can do it a couple of times a week, but I sure as heck have figured out I can't be the daycare provider because I'm exhausted. And maybe these kids need to be in preschool and you just are maybe aware of this, but helping your children get to the point where they can afford their own daycare and get some bills cleared away, maybe get their ninth house issues out of the way so that they can put the children in proper daycare where they're safe and cared for and where you can then go back to being grandma and having fun with them. So the Seven of Wands in reverse coincides here with Venus and Scorpio, sextiling Pluto in Capricorn. So Scorpio being your 10th house of career, wouldn't you know it, or your chosen profession, your reputation, your fame in the world, the way that you express yourself, the way people see you out there. And so as it makes it sextile to Pluto in Capricorn, your solar 12th house, there might be some rage built up, or, right about now. And it could just be these frustrations with work again, where you're getting tired. And, if you're not 22 years old, wet behind the ears and have a brand new certification or degree or something, and you've just like, go get it, because they don't have kids yet. And they don't know what it's like to be woken up 5 times, and so they've got more energy. Maybe that's good for them when they're trying to climb their way up the ladder. But for the rest of you that have already got tons of of experience under the belt. You guys are the ones who should be teaching these courses, these classes, these protocols, these procedures. You're the one who just should sit there pointing at, people and telling them what they need to try to do next. And, this could be the reason why you feel this way. You do, again, need to be wary of that Mars in your 9th house in Libra, opposed to the 3rd house Uranus in Aries, where you could suddenly say, you know what, and because of this, I will not put up with you, Satan. I don't care how long you've held the position of COO, and you're like, everybody else is going, oh God, he called him Satan. And, maybe that's the way you really feel, and I'm not going to tell you what to do or what to say or how to express yourself. If I get to the point that I'm going to lose it, I only control myself a little bit. And only so that I can properly deliver whatever insult I think that person deserves. And let me tell you, by the time I get blown up here, it's probably going to land me in the clink at least overnight, because I may throw a brick at somebody's head. So I don't want you to go that far, but that's the level of frustration I see you at. So keep in mind, you just need to remember that there could be somewhat provocative situations where you're thinking, I could kill a man. Don't do it though. I'm not inciting a riot or, death by brick, but keep that in mind. Friday, we've got the Ace of Wands. So there's obviously something here, some ray of hope, if not something that looks like is that like the Korean flag, or is that like the Japanese flag? There's something going on there that looks familiar to me. No offense to any country who doesn't like my idea of what I think I saw. But talk to Cubans and Puerto Ricans about who has whose flag, and I'll tell you they copied it from us and they think that we stole it from them, whatever. So here the Ace of Wands is talking about a new beginning, seeing your way through some potentially confusing situations, but coming up with your own creative solutions to these complex problems. And they may not even be problematic to you. You might love Rubik's Cube. My way around it was screwdriver, pop them out, put them back into place, which isn't the way it works. But, I thought it was a good idea at the time, and I shouldn't be playing with screwdrivers, and some of you know why. So here we've got the idea that you are able to move forward, to come up with creative solutions, even if it means that you have to come up with a way to bridge the gap between what you don't like about your current situation now and what you do want in the near future. In fact, let's look at this card, shall we? If we look at this, it occurs to me that this wand is growing up out of the ground. It looks really great. It's standing there, doesn't need a support, nobody's holding it. And in the future, which is just kind of like looking directly across from it, let me look at this real quick, hang on. That could be a castle. I suppose it could be a weird artichoke, and it could be a clipper ship. Whatever it is, it looks like it's up on kind of stranded. Like it looks like that could be a dry ocean bed. There's something weird there, and I really don't know if that's a clipper ship. Okay, so I don't know if that really looks like a weird artichoke, but you know what I'm saying? Whatever that is, that there is some idea that you come up with that says, I have solved the problem. I don't have to wait for another shift in whatever these, what's the word for it now? I can't think of it, but you guys probably know what I'm talking about before I even say it. You guys are that good, really. Climate change, for this to become an ocean bed again, like maybe more glaciers melt or some of the ice caps. And so here, this is really something that I'm honing in on for you, that you have figured out how to get from point A to point B, even though that looks like freaking impossible, or that you're going to have to go some distance and maybe scale that thing that could be a volcano thing with the weird artichoke growing out of it. And that's the kind of energy that you really need to hold on to, harness, because it's about to really freaking work for you. So think about this card, contemplate, take a screenshot of it, Google it, Ace of Wands, put it on your cell phone, go to the bathroom, have a number 2, take time to meditate with this thing. I'm not trying to be vulgar, it just happens. We also have the energy of the Sun in Sagittarius squaring the North Node in Virgo. So Sagittarius again, solar 11th house, Virgo, this is your solar 8th house, North Node, telling you to focus over here. There could be some crazy idea that some friend of yours has that you met through a group association. And this is an unusual person, to say the least, especially if they reside in your 11th house of Sagittarius. And they could come up with bingo, the most brilliant solution to where it's a win-win, and you actually do something that's super fun. And you're like, hey, we thought this was going to be a hobby, and look, we're actually making money. And then you don't tell anybody about your master plan. Maybe it's reinventing the Death Star. How do I know? Doing something amazing there. And it could really come through a friend through an association. It could be somebody says, dude, look, this ship is sinking. And it reminds me of when I worked at a bank that the feds were at. And one of them was asking me what the hell I was doing there still. And she gave me the best advice. And she basically said, you got to leave, get out of here. They were going to cover for me while I could get out of there and find another job, which actually became easy because, a friend of a friend put me in touch with Satan, and I actually worked for that bastard for a while. But you see what I'm saying? Maybe you don't. But here it comes through a friend, and it could be a kind of day of reckoning, or it is a friend that gives you some advice, or your friend says, dude, look, you're a brainiac, and you and I together, we can create the ultimate job fantasy. And you're like, hey, look, that doesn't even sound half bad. And then you start to actually create the master plan. The only thing I want to advise you is that Venus in Scorpio, the solar 10th house of the career, is quincunx to Uranus and Aries. So shh. Even if I'm giving you the master plan and you guys are going to take this and run with it, and then you send me a gift card to like IHOP so I could get pancakes, then don't tell anybody about it. Keep it on the low, down low. Don't talk about it, because you could actually be like, I'm just so excited because, we're going to start this whole group of people twirling batons, and then we're actually going to be woodworkers, and we're going to dress in medieval clothing while we plant batons. And we're like, what? Hey, that sounds like awesome, cool. Let's put it on YouTube, and somebody steals your idea. So shh. Don't tell people about your excitement. On Saturday, we have the King of Cups. So this is a water sign, male, most likely. Could be Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces water signs, and it could be Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces rising, and it could just be somebody who's just a very natural, intuitive type of great shoulder to talk to, natural psychologist of the zodiac type. And so don't get too stuck on what profession this guy is, although this could actually be a counselor, a therapist, it could be a coach, it could be a guru, although I'm pretty sure that this is just going to be one of your friends. Now, there is a chance it could be you in the way you're really feeling like, I got this. I am totally yin to the yang. I am all about that Tai Chi, and my Zen garden is looking great. Look, I've got little tiny boulders in there. And so you've got this really great rapport with this person, and I think that this is going to be somebody that is important to the plan, or could be the person creating the master plan. Sunday, we have the moon upright. Not a bad thing for you, because I think that this is talking about some timing, and I think it relates to the full moon at the end of the month. In December on the 25th, it is a full moon in Cancer. This quarter moon that is on Friday is in Pisces for you. Again, that's solar second house, so there could be some money-making ideas. Get some good rest, get some good nutrition and sleep so that your body can regenerate and that you get through enough sleep cycles so that you can go into rapid eye movement and you can actually remember some of these dreams. So tell yourself that you want to remember the dreams, because there's something that could come to you through the dream state, and it could be your higher power, or if you're an atheist, your higher self. It depends on what you believe. Whatever floats your boat, it's coming from the same place. So it could be that this information comes to you, and that just in the nick of time when you're like, I don't even know, how do I get to my weird artichoke there on that thing that looks like a dry volcano in a dry ocean bed? And I'm like, dude, it'll come to you. Just relax, chill, flow. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if you work for Satan, no matter what the issue is, maybe you don't like your tax collector. Maybe there's something about a solicitor that punched the face, elbow to the chest, solar plexus right there. Maybe you don't have to do this because you calm yourself down enough to know that everything is about cycles, my friends. And the sooner you recognize that everything is cyclical in life, everything, not just from the obvious birth, death, taxes, death. I'm kidding. But everything is a cycle, good times, bad times, sometimes on top, sometimes on bottom. And I think by the end of this month, you're going to have an epiphany. I love that word, epiphany. And you're going to realize that there's something about you, something very special, something that, you might have just relegated to the realm of the basement and the hobbies, maybe where you go down there and, play with your ninja stars, you play, battle all night long with other people playing World of Warcraft, if that's your thing. And you get this information, this idea comes to you. Take note of it. Grab your phone, take a note. If you are on Windows, hey, Cortana, and tell Cortana to take a note. Or okay, Google, listen now. Tell the computer, tell the software, tell whatever AI you're using to help you keep track of your thoughts that you've got an idea, and just don't edit it, speak it to the machine or to whatever you do, and make sense of it. Only insofar as to put it into context, like, okay, so I have an idea. I've never thought about this before, but what about not just artichoke hearts? How about a whole artichoke in a can, ready to eat in your MRE. You know, whatever this is, just put it into the context of what the idea was as it came to you. And you will find, my friend, it might not be about artichokes and it might not be about Tai Chi or punching somebody in the face. It's probably going to be a very creative idea that you come up with all on your own, or somebody else serves as impetus and you are the king of all things, and you'll see yourself winning next year. I have total confidence in you guys. Have a wonderful week, and I'll be talking to you again soon.